So they'll be calling you a radical. So I want to talk about surviving cancer and this data by the CDC that's all over out that the mortality rate for cancer has dramatically declined. Now, first off, take this with 3 grains of salt because, I know, I was given 2 months to live in that room right there over 9 years ago with AML, de novo, non-Hodskins lymphoma, brutal, wicked cancer that spiked so hard that just absolutely no surviving it. I'm still alive. So, first off, you read plenty of websites that are out the last few days. They're saying cancer rates have dropped dramatically. That's a total lie. That's not what the CDC says. Death via cancer has dropped. Death, not cancer rates. Death. Cancer rates are still going crazy. Now, just remember this. The reason this number this year is very skewed is you're under treatment, right? Cancer victims, lots of cancer, you're under the chemo. Your neutrophils are 0. COVID is killing tens of thousands of them. So their death is being reported as COVID. When would they survive or would they not? Well, let's just take the numbers and do the math. So the survival rate, you bleed that back in. Has death via cancer declined? Yeah. Dramatically? No. Now, stay with me. Treatment in cancer has dramatically improved, and oh, do I know. I had a doctor who was incredibly dynamic, incredibly, creative, who believed in me because he's an anti-nuclear like me. I got lucky. I got miracle after miracle because I was misdiagnosed right here multiple times. So, surviving it, fuck. I'm speaking to everybody who has lost someone, a loved one from cancer. I would like to say this first before I go on this. No one fights harder for your loved ones. No one on earth than I do. It's heartbreaking. And I know I've lost loved ones. I lost my dad. I lost Annika. I was in a bone marrow transplant center for a long time going in and out of a coma. I went through. So I want to speak to survivors. How we're so discriminated against. Cancer survivors are the most discriminated people on earth besides indigenous people. We are hardcore, especially in Utah. I have no safety net. I have no insurance. I have no nothing. These, especially with AML, leukemia, and this long, brutal fight, you don't just walk away, I want to say this to people who say, look, chemo's a big, broad term, and everybody wants to just say, oh, the doctor and the chemo killed my loved one, when it was the cancer that killed their loved one. Most of the time, chemo is a desperation. Total desperation in a person that's going to die. That was me. Now, the byproduct of all this treatment, of course there's a byproduct. I've lost several teeth, open heart surgery, my valve. Now, I was born with a heart murmur, bad one, so it was going to go some point anyway. So my gallbladder went because of the chemo. I used Ericium squared, which is a mushroom root, which, talk about a delicate, dangerous balance. But I'm going to do more and more of these videos about surviving because I am alive when there was no hope, and I was in perfectly good condition when cancer struck me. The diagnosis, first and foremost, when you go into these units, whatever, I had leukemia that presented tumors. You wouldn't believe some of the diagnosis. I had Dr. Taus right in there tell me that scoped me and told me it was an ulcer. Told me I had a Japanese doctor come in and threw me out of the hospital and told me there was nothing wrong with me. These tumors were carcinoid, and they were not. When they biopsied them, the pathologist got it wrong because he put a wrong dish. Over and over. But the one way that I did find out, because Vincent Hansen, I've known since I was a child. My uncle's his old business partner. They bone marrow biopsy. If it's and they go into your hip. I've had a lot of them. They're wicked. Waiting for the results is wicked. He figured it out. And leukemia can present tumors. Happens more than you think. And it's the warning shot over the bow that you're in big trouble. And you better get on this. I went from 170 to 130 in 3 weeks. The tumors wrapped around my lower bowel. Had tumors up in me. I had didn't even restrict my diet. I don't know how I didn't rupture my bowel. I don't know. It's been an incredible journey, but my point is this. I had no insurance. I had 30-something thousand shares of Tesla stock. Dude, I figured it up today. It'd be worth over $30 million. It was worth under $1 million then. 2011, I had everybody buying it. I forked it over to get in because I was uninsured. I got in. That went away. Then, my heart open heart surgery, uninsured. So I have nothing but, we have nothing but medical bills. Say you are insured. Say you got a copay of 10%. These bills are north of millions. My bill over $2 million. So say you did have a copay. Okay? You still owe, $200,000-$300,000. They sue you for it. They go after you. And so in Utah, Mike Lee, they threw me on Medicaid after I forked over $1 million. Mike Lee kicked me off Medicaid when he made his idealistic stand on Obamacare, when he sent it back. John Hodskins himself, the old man, went off on him. He says, he's sending back our own money. I'm going to run his son against him. His son becomes his candidate. It's a club. So this is important. I'm going to start doing more and more. I walk every day. I was just in seeing my doctor. I try to stay in a good routine. I go to bed at a decent hour as much as I can. But I fight back against the people that gave it to me in a tense way, if you haven't noticed. I try to stay as erotic in my brain as I possibly can. This, you think, 9 years it's over. No, it's not over. Brian Morris is just like me. I didn't have a transplant. I was too sick. My doctor says that I'm the only one he knows of that willingly did not have one. Brian Morris didn't have one. His came back after 9 years. He had a transplant and didn't work. He had a stem cell from his son, Winston, and some new boost, and he's alive. I don't know how. So, but here's the point. It devastates your credit score. Your credit score is wiped out. By the rules of the United States Medicaid, you can't have anything. You can have a house and your car. And, of course, I'm not on Medicaid, am I? So, you're financially devastated. Most long-term cancer survivors go through divorces, especially men, because, that's the way we've developed this in the United States. You're the so-called breadwinner. I sit in these, I did until this happened, COVID, in these support groups. I can't believe this is happening to me. That's all I hear all the time. It's not happening to you. It's happening to them. Go sit with them. And they won't sit with their own loved ones. It devastates whole families. It devastates relationships. It devastates everything. Your careers are over. Your ability to work in a 9-to-5, forget about it. It's over. Your job to survive this cancer becomes your full-time job. I'll get no stimulus check. And that's another thing that's flawed about this. Cancer survivors, they don't file tax returns. Fuck, they're too busy focused trying to fucking stay alive. That's their job. It's my job, full-time job. I try to spend time with my grandchildren. I try to, go to the coast, walk the coast, which is very healing to me, by the way. Very healing. I was sent home to die after 3 rounds of chemo. And my platelets were stuck in the 30s for a long, long time. I walked the entire coast of California. Everybody expected me to die. I didn't die. It's intense. The wolf is always on your neck. I juice. In the wintertime, I like to drink carrot juice with the turmeric. I'll buy that Bot House, at the store. The organic, if I can get it. I drink a lot of beet juice in the summer. I try to stay in a healthy, balanced diet. I'll try to eat at the hospital here as much as I can, but whatever. I try to eat a balanced meal, in the middle of the day. In the mornings, I have coffee, which my doctor says it's important. I worked with a dietitian. She says, Kevin, try to stay off American dairy as much as possible. If you're eating American dairy, you might as well put a gun to your head, which is true. It's toxic. It's probably get all that. You know, but I cheat once in a while on things. I'm not so militant that I forget to live. I don't drink, rarely. I'll have a couple beers here and there once in a while. Very rarely. You know, fast food, I don't eat it once in a while. You know, chocolate, oh yeah, I eat chocolate. You know, but diet's important, but a lot of meditation. We become very lonely people, and I know because I've dealt with cancer support. I mean, hardcore. It's a very lonely walk. We're hardcore discriminated because we lose our safety net after a little while. Then we lose our support group. Then it becomes people have lost loved ones, and so they despise us and they hate us. So, you know, I fight back against the people that gave it to me. The Radio Roundup, Monsanto, Nuclear Energy Crime fucking Syndicate. And by the way, my anti-nuclear activism saved my life. You know, Vincent right here, who got involved, Hanson, brother and father both died of thyroid cancer. Young. He's known me since I was a kid. He knows my anti-nuclear. He talked to me about they don't take, LDSC state, they don't take 51-year-olds with AML, de novo, non-Hodskins because the odds are near zero. He talked me into taking me. Vincent's an anti-nuclear. Most oncologists are, but they can't talk because of HIPAA laws. By the way, Rush Limbaugh is dying right now. So is a bee. I mean, it's amazing. So we walk. So when you read this, and there's lots of websites that are reporting cancer rates have dropped dramatically. No, read what the CDC said. Death via cancer has dropped radically this year, and take that with a grain of salt because so many cancer victims that are dying of COVID because your neutrophils are zero. So, but medicine has came miles. I'm living proof. Medicine has, and the availability to cleaner food. I mean, lots of these come. I met the Bauhaus guy on the plane flying to Eugene when I did that lecture on PBS. And we talked, and he took me on a tour out there. You know, clean, good stuff. You know, and of course it's expensive, but it's the stuff they sell like in the shit. I can buy a great big bottle of Bauhaus carrot juice for, sometimes I discount it for $5, you know, lasts me for 4 or 5 days, you know, and I walk till I'm really thirsty, really dry, and then I chug my juice hard, you know, but just know people that are out there that are fighting these brutal cancers, if you're, that diagnosis was so devastating. I mean, I'll never forget that night, that afternoon. You know, I've been to this hospital, and my neighbor, Natalie, scanned me that night when I was puking bowel movement out of my mouth. That's how radical my stomach ache became. I got up here. When I have to call an ambulance, she scanned me. By the way, she has recently passed from an out-of-the-blue heart attack. Well, I'm sure it was cesium heart. Radiologists, what they put themselves through, so many of them, it's very, I mean, talk about pioneers that sacrificed themselves. I loved her. She ended up being one of my nurses at LDS. I grew up with her. I loved her. What an amazing person. I went here, and he told me that I had probably food poisoning. He says, but your white count is elevated. And that's another thing people need to realize. Emergency room doctors. I went and saw Michael Hodskins at Ogden Regional Medical Center when my heart's failing. It's my heart. I'm bleeding to death. One of the nurses, one of my oncologist nurses in there, she recognized me. I said, no. He says he ran the test. Go see my dentist. I says, no, it's my heart. Emergency room doctors don't even have to have medical degrees. He had a chiropractor, and they can represent themselves. And so, look what you're up against. And of course, you're uninsured. Anybody who's gone through long-term cancer treatment, of course you're uninsured. You're uninsurable. I'm uninsurable. I have no None. So what is it? I haven't even had a credit card in 20 years. Haven't had a loan in 20 years. I got a little house payment. Nobody would give me credit if I wanted it. Yet my credit score is devastated because I have scraggling medical bills all over, hanging all over, and they won't take that into account. So we have no availability to credit. We have no safety net. We have no insurance. We'll get no stimulus check. Our ability to work is compromised dramatically. I mean, our job is surviving, full time. So, the most discriminated people on the face of the earth, I'm here to tell you, besides indigenous people, and we're right there with them, are cancer victims. Long-term cancer survivors. We pay a price, right? We pay a price for surviving. We pay a hell of a price for surviving. So when you read this, don't read the headline, the cancer rates are dry. That's stop and then Google it. Start Googling it. And you'll see what they said. Death via cancer for 2 years in a row has dropped dramatically. Cancer treatment is getting so good. So when you get that devastating diagnosis, like I got, don't you give up. And I saw it so many times. I mean, I just run into Whitney, my personal nurse that I had in there. I've seen her in years, and I was in there in the store, and I saw her at the checkout stand. Whitney, is that you? Oh my God, Kevin. Oh my God. I don't believe it. Yeah, I'm alive. She looks so good. Celeste down at LDS bone marrow transplant told me, Kevin, you're the only... She called me over and says, Kevin, I want to talk to you. When I was in the clinic one day, she says, I've been here 26 years. I prepared your paperwork when you came in. You were a red 10. We rank you. She says, I've never seen a red 10 walk out of here in my life. You're the biggest miracle I've ever seen. You should be incredibly proud of you. And I'll tell you what, she says, I want to say personally, thank you to everything you've done, fighting for us, fighting for the environment, fighting for the ecology, fighting for all of us. You're such an inspiration to me. I will never forget it. I fully prepared to do your paperwork later that week in a body bag. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. And so if you get that devastating diagnosis, because I saw it over and over and over. There was a young guy named Dustin in there by the room with me. Marshall Jensen fought hard. You can Google his case. He died. Nancy Peterson in the room next to me. I mean, they fought so hard. I mean, they were talking some of the most famous leukemia cases in the history of the country. Dustin was in there, had children, went in there, you could smell him smoking weed in there. I'm like, well, you're not supposed to, but what are they going to tell him? He's AML leukemia. So Whitney's like one day, Kevin, can you go pep him up? He just laying there. I'm not going to do it. Why? You're not even going to try? Just lays in there. I said, you got kids. Fight. Even if you die, the fight matters. You have to show your children the path and the way. Get your fucking ass out of bed and fight. Come on. Wouldn't do it. So many won't. And I understand, because surviving is not all that, then some. But it is. Lots of walking meditation. Lots of loneliness. Lots of loneliness. You know what I'm talking about, who I'm talking to. Long-term cancer survivors. And we're talking, these are, get your breast cut out. Breast cancer is devastating. Prostate cancer is devastating. Do not kid yourself. We're talking AML blood cancers. We're talking cancers that just devastate you, and the death rates are gigantic. So if you get a diagnosis, I don't care how radical and how bad, don't give up. I'm telling you, I'm living proof. Cancer treatment is so much better right now. It's unbelievable. The rates of cancer are actually higher in the last 2 years. So, words matter, right? How you structure a sentence. No, death being cancer has dropped for the second consecutive year. But has it really? I can talk because I'm in these units. I'm in there. And I know for a fact, I know dozens of people that have died from COVID Because their neutrophils are 0 because you're under the chemo. Of course it's going to kill you. Not only that, they've had to back off some treatment. So the list of death goes as COVID. When, is it? Yeah, well, I mean, it should say both. So, but that's my point. I'm going to start doing more of these. You know, I walk over to the market here and I chug my juice. You know, I try to stay very spiritual. You know, try to raise my grandkids. I'm a room mother. You know, at this elementary schools, I try to do anything that anybody asks, and that's another thing. I always, these videos and so much, anytime anybody asks anything of me, anything, even if I don't agree with it, I don't like it, whatever, I always say yes. I always say yes. I give myself away. And so, but again, and anybody who's fighting these brutal things or in these very depressing situations, I list my phone number. You're more welcome to call me anytime. You know, and you got me. You got me. You know, we are family. 1% survivors, we find each other. I tell you what, they're incredible people. And they just go on. You know, they go on. They fling it off and they fight on. But in the reality of it, the long-term situation is disastrous economically, you know, and socially. Talk about your sex life get destroyed. Whoa. Oh boy. I mean, it's a whole different gig, isn't it? Talk about everything destroyed. So, fight on. You got me. These cancer rate, death has declined the last 2 years. But the rate of cancer has increased. Words matter. Stay tuned.